Hello mortals, Discordian Kitty here. A little under 2 years ago, one of my earliest videos was about Calia Menethil and why you shouldn't trust her. It's one of my personal favorites. Unfortunately, it also sounds like it was recorded at the bottom of a tin bath. I've wanted to fix it for a long time, and with the War Within winding down, Legion Remix reminding us of some of the biggest themes that led to my distrust of Calia specifically and the light in general, and the fact that I'm heading to South Africa this month visiting my parents and so can't follow my usual schedule, I've decided now is the perfect time to revisit this video, finally fix the sound, and also update it with new information that's come to light since. So even if you saw the original, there should at least be something new for you. I hope you enjoy. Calia Menethil, light-created undead, sister to Arthas, and one of several leaders of the Forsaken. In recent times, she's acted as something of an ambassador between the Forsaken and the Alliance, even helping to organize the Reclamation of Gilneas. But can she be trusted? When it first came out on the PTR, the Horde's ending quest in the Reclaiming Gilneas storyline included an interesting slip. The quest's instructions told us to report to Queen Calia. This caused quite a stir, especially among the Forsaken. Many an eyebrow was raised and, because they are undead after all, immediately fell off. The quest text was a mistake that was quickly fixed, but it highlighted a major reason why Calia is a bit of a problem for the Forsaken. The fact is, she does have a claim to Lordaeron's throne, and many worry that she might still try to take it. In fact, when Calia first joined the Forsaken, she was met with considerable hostility for this exact reason, not just from players, but from in-game characters. In an attempt to ease everyone's concerns, she insisted she had no intentions for the throne of Lordaeron. But is that true? Can the claims that Calia will never sit on Lordaeron's throne be trusted? I don't believe so, but I also want to openly admit something here. I want Calia to be untrustworthy. I think it makes her far more interesting. No Forsaken player is interested in some sort of weirdly gentrified version of Sylvanas. Forsaken stories, like a lot of Horde stories, have a tradition of challenging perception. What makes a monster? What makes a man? The true monster in Frankenstein is Dr. Frankenstein himself, etc. A character like Calia, with her angelic features and light-infused undeath, is perfectly poised to contrast strongly with the rotting undead. Calia's existence also hints at some pretty horrific things about the light. She represents a lot of narrative opportunities that shouldn't be missed. But it's all very well to argue that I think Calia's character would be better if she turns out to be more ambitious than she claims. Do I have any evidence to support it? I believe I do. On the surface, Calia's involvement in the Reclamation of Gilneas is simple but effective. Back at the end of the Return to Lordaeron storyline, having been appointed a member of the Desolate Council, Calia stated that the first order of business she would bring would be the withdrawal of Forsaken troops from Gilneas. With the formation of the new Desolate Council, one of the first topics I propose is the withdrawal of Forsaken troops from the Kingdom of Gilneas. In time, I hope that we may come closer to agreement and see both lands into a brighter future. Calia's efforts have been extremely successful. Not only has she been able to convince the Forsaken to relinquish any claim they had made to Gilneas, she even convinces the Forsaken to help the Gilneans reclaim their city from the Scarlet Crusade. This is admittedly in part because the Crusade are a historical threat to the Forsaken. A stronghold so close to Undercity poses a threat, especially as the Scarlet Crusade have, in recent times, recommitted themselves to their aims of eradicating all undead from the Kingdom of Lordaeron. Presumably, an Alliance stronghold wouldn't be a threat due to the peace between the factions. Of course, the Gilneans aren't thrilled about accepting Forsaken help, but once again, Calia's diplomatic skills come in handy. She is able to convince none other than Gen Greymane himself to at least try to put the past behind him and welcome the Forsaken and other Horde members into Gilneas long enough to kick the Scarlet Crusade out. This is no small feat. The last time Gen saw Forsaken in his kingdom, they were busy destroying his land and slaughtering his people, including his son. But he also understands the world is changing. As for Calia, this is just the latest example of her unique position on the Desolate Council. The only undead to be created by the light, Calia has strong ties to both Living Alliance and Horde undead. Members of both factions trust her, and so she is the perfect ambassador. This is rather ironic, considering how she died to begin with. While she was still alive, Calia joined Ander and Rin in his efforts to try rebuild relationships between Living Alliance and their undead relatives. At the time, Sylvanas Windrunner reluctantly agreed to the gathering, a meeting between select living and undead. But when Calia was revealed to be in attendance, Sylvanas, seeing the last Menethil as a threat to her position as leader of the Forsaken, had her killed on the spot, along with the Forsaken attendees, who Sylvanas saw as compromised. Calia's death also marked the death of Anduin's original hopes for peace, at least back then. The gathering was a complete failure. Now, however, Calia manages in death what she failed to do in life. Her presence alone seems enough to soothe. When Gen is at first resistant to the Forsaken and Gilneas, all that needs to be said to convince him is this.
Gen, it's Calia. Calia Menethil. Not some mindless scourge. Let her speak.
The Forsaken know the Scarlet Crusade better than anyone, King Greymane. You have little reason to trust us, but I give you my word. As a Menethil, we only wish to return what rightfully belongs to you.
A lot can be taken from these lines. It's hard to imagine Sylvanas Windrunner standing calmly by while her people are associated with the mindless scourge. When the Tauren argued that the Forsaken should be shown compassion because their plight could teach the living empathy, Sylvanas could barely contain her fury at the suggestion that the Forsaken only existed to make the living feel better about themselves. So the fact that Calia simply accepts this insult to the people she seems to want to represent is a perfect example of why many Forsaken do not trust or even like her. However, perhaps the most important and alarming part of this dialogue is the use of the name Menethil. Specifically, Calia herself openly embracing the name and everything it implies. When Calia first joined the Forsaken, she was not welcome with open arms. In the Return to Lordaeron questline, she herself explained why. First, the name Menethil is associated with her brother, Arthas Menethil, the Leech King. For a lot of Forsaken, it was Arthas who murdered them and raised them into undeath in the first place. Second, as the last Menethil, Calia may technically have a claim to the throne of Lordaeron. This threat to her position is the reason why Sylvanas killed Calia to begin with. Though Sylvanas was long gone by the time Calia arrived in Tirisfal Glades, this didn't mean the Forsaken wanted her to retake the throne of Lordaeron any more than Sylvanas had. Calia did not die with most Forsaken and was not raised with them. She had never lived in Undercity and doesn't know what it is to fear warmth because it might cause you to rot. Her friends in the Alliance still accept her, and while she may not be universally liked, those friends she has made in the Horde seem to trust her willingly. In other words, while Calia may be undead and while she may have experienced grief, pain, and loss, she has never experienced what it is to be truly Forsaken. It would not be right for her to lead them, and it's worth noting she's unpopular with Forsaken players as well. Why wouldn't the Forsaken welcome you? It begins with my name. I am Arthas Menethil's sister, and I was once a member of the Royal House of Lordaeron, though I never intended to rule, and nor would I seek to. Sorry, that is a lie, anyway. Some may see me as seeking authority where I have none, or representing the Alliance where I do not. Or some hear the name Menethil and are rightly horrified by my brother's actions. But I am my own soul, and have lost as much to the Scourge as any survivor of Lordaeron. All I wish now is to help. So here, Calia claimed she had no intention of ever claiming the throne of Lordaeron, insisting she does not seek to rule. Often she would greet players with the line, "It's just Calia now." When her position on the Desolate Council was directly challenged, Calia specifically distanced herself from the name Menethil and reaffirmed that she had no desire for the throne.
Are we really going to trust a Menethil on the Council?
I cannot escape the shadows of my past. But I have no desire for a throne. My place is here among you, and I vow to serve all our people.
Calia speaks of the name Menethil as something to be ashamed of, something that represents a legacy of shame that stopped the Forsaken from trusting her.
But will they ever truly accept me, bearing a name forever stained by a brother's sins?
But Calia didn't always treat her name this way, and her claims about never intending to seek the throne are flat-out lies. Before she left to join the Forsaken, she made it very clear that she saw the Forsaken as her people and intended to live up to the family name.
I received a letter from Lillian Voss of the Forsaken. She asks for my help.
Voss? I've read reports of the crimes she committed on behalf of her war chief. What does she want from you?
The Forsaken lost their queen. For many, it's the second time they've been abandoned. They feel adrift, alone.
But Calia, none of that is your fault.
They are my people, Jaina. My father gave everything for Lordaeron. I wish to honor him and to prove worthy of the name I was born with. The name Menethil.
And so, we begin to see how it is. Calia downplays her connection to the Menethil name and her claim to the throne of Lordaeron when she's with the Forsaken. But when she's among the Alliance, suddenly that changes. All of a sudden, she's proud of the name and giving her word as a Menethil. Okay, so maybe Calia does want to rule the Forsaken after all. Would that be such a bad thing? If all she cares about is improving their lives, or unlives, she is, after all, heir to the same kingdom many Forsaken came from in life. Why not let her rule? Putting aside any concerns about Calia's popularity, Forsaken players may never like her, but convincing the Forsaken people to approve of her is as simple as writing even the most obstinate character a couple of lines about why they actually respect her now. The problem with Calia is, first, Calia herself has shown she cannot be trusted. And second, Calia is associated with a cosmic force that has shown it cannot be trusted. And there is a very good reason why we should be wary of any cosmic force right now, no matter how benevolent it appears. When Calia claims she doesn't see the throne as hers, she is lying. Calia has always seen it as hers by right and only claims otherwise when she believes it would cause a fight that she cannot win. The first and possibly most catastrophic example can be found in Before the Storm. In this novel, Calia asks Anduin if he would support her claim to the throne of Lordaeron. When she can see the question troubles him, she quickly assures him that she has no interest in the throne. Suddenly her expression grew thoughtful, and she searched his eyes. Would you be among them, Anduin? Is that why you ask? Would the King of Stormwind make war on the Horde, scour the Undercity, and grant the Queen of Lordaeron her empty kingdom? The throne was hers by every right. Yet was it worth war should she express a desire to claim it? She saw the struggle on his face and put her hand on his. I understand. Don't worry. Those who currently inhabit Lordaeron lived there in life. The Forsaken are the true heirs. It belongs to them now. The best I can do for those whom I would have ruled is exactly what I'm doing. I've found peace and a calling where I can really matter. That's more important than a bloodied crown. Later, Calia asks Anduin to allow her to attend the gathering between Forsaken and their living human relatives. Anduin is concerned that her presence could cause trouble, but Calia assures him that she won't make any attempts to convince the Forsaken to leave Undercity. Anduin agrees, but later we see the condition is that Calia keep her hood up at all times. I have a favor to ask, of both you and the Archbishop. I'd like to participate in the gathering. Anduin frowned slightly. I don't think that's wise, he said. There may be those who recognize you. It could be dangerous. It could be misconstrued. It could, in fact, lead to war. If any of the Forsaken do recognize me, it will give me the chance to show that I bear them no ill will, she countered. That I have no desire to run them out of place that's been their home for so long. I want them to stay there. I want them to be safe. However, at the gathering, Calia suddenly realizes she has an opportunity. In a snap decision, she asks the Forsaken attendees to disobey Sylvanas and follow her, Calia, instead. Calia's choice of words is particularly interesting. She asks the Forsaken to support her, as one might support a leader. So much had fallen into place so perfectly. The Desolate Council, Anduin's noble call for this gathering. And now, spontaneously, Human and Forsaken had taken a step so courageous that Calia felt both inspired and ashamed. Yes, Parkour was right. It was time. She whirled towards Elsie, her hood falling off with her movement. Elsie, there's something you must know, and I pray to the light that has sent me here this day that you will understand and support it. She swallowed hard. Support me. All of a sudden, Calia has changed her tune. She calls the Forsaken her people, and in direct opposition to what she promised Anduin, attempts to convince them to leave Undercity. Maybe it's not all the Forsaken, maybe she's just trying to help these few, but Calia has still decided it's on her to lead them and rescue them from their leader, home, and the unlife that they know. Unfortunately for Calia, she doesn't quite get the support she was hoping for. Still, she goes on to make a sudden appeal to the rest of the Forsaken, invoking her name and calling on them to follow her. We see how, while she might have told Anduin she didn't seek Lordaeron's throne, she still views it as hers by right. In the center of the field, Elsie stared at the Queen of Lordaeron. "It's not possible," she said, but she knew it was true. Calia had taken care to keep her face hidden in the shadow of her hood. But now the hood was gone, and she had turned to look directly at Elsie, and Elsie could not look away. "You are my people, and I want to help you," Calia pleaded. "I only came to observe, to begin to get to know the Forsaken of Lordaeron." "Undercity," Elsie said. "We live in Undercity. You didn't once. You won't have to live in the shadows anymore. Just, please, come, walk with me. Parkhull, the Fellstones, all the others. See them? They're defecting. Anduin will shelter and protect you all. I know he will." Calia turned away from the Prime Governor, ran forward a few paces, cupped her hands around her mouth, and shouted, "Forsaken, I am Calia Menethil, head for the keep." She was Calia Menethil, heir to the throne of Lordaeron, and she would fight and die to defend her people. Calia gets her wish. She does die. Sylvanas has her killed almost immediately. The novel ends with Calia's resurrection by the light, transforming her into the light-aligned undead she is today. And after her undeath, Calia told Anduin she wasn't ready to rule the Forsaken yet. She intended to learn what it's like to be one of them first. "I am not yet ready to rule, but I wish to serve the people of Lordaeron. They are my people, and now I am like them. It feels right. I'll learn, and from the Archbishop, I'll learn what it's like to be this, to be undead yet walk in the light." As far as original intentions for Calia's character goes, this feels pretty clear. "I'm not ready to rule yet" means, but I'm going to be ready to rule one day. And Calia's conversation with Jaina about her people needing a ruler couldn't make her intentions more obvious. And there's other evidence Calia was first intended to be the new Forsaken faction leader after Sylvanas. She was given the title the Pallid Lady. Derek Proudmoore was made her champion, directly mirroring Sylvanas, the Dark Lady, and her champion Nathanos. At the start of Shadowlands, during the introduction questline, Calia stood alone as the sole representative of the Forsaken alongside the other Horde faction leaders. No Desolate Council, no Lillian Voss, just Calia taking on that leadership role as if it belonged to her. I don't like to speculate too much on story rewrites, but I remember the backlash to Calia during Shadowlands, which means it must have been really bad because there was so much backlash going on, it had to be quite something to stand out. And then how it was followed by the quest that introduces the council instead and has her make a big song and dance about how she didn't intend to take the throne, honest. It just felt very on the nose. But Calia is still on the council, and while it's very clear that the Forsaken aren't ready to accept her as sole leader anytime soon, she's still working hard on that whole trying to connect with her people thing. Maybe Blizzard is still hoping Forsaken players will get used to Calia and get to a point where they can make her queen. I still think a slip-up like Queen Calia only happens if that's the way you think about her, at least on some level. Or maybe they never intended to put her on Lordaeron's throne and the rotting brain thing has just made the Forsaken paranoid. Either way, I think it's fair to say the story suggests Calia herself is just biding her time, waiting for that moment to once again declare herself rightful heir to Lordaeron's throne and her intention to rule. Now, the point here is not whether or not Calia is the rightful heir to Lordaeron, or if she would make a good leader. The point is that she, and maybe Blizzard as well, but that's less important, tends towards being deceptive about her own ambitions until she feels that she's in a strong enough position to be more open about them. When she knows it would be a lot to ask Anduin to support her claim, she promises she's not interested in making that claim. But when she thinks everything has fallen into place, suddenly she's Calia Menethil, heir to the throne of Lordaeron. Before she left to join the Forsaken, she spoke about how they're not in need of a leader, that they're her people, and her pride in the Menethil name. Once among them, she started distancing herself from the name and denying any ambition for the throne. But the moment she was back among the Alliance, she was proud of the name again. And even this wouldn't be a problem. Sometimes people change their minds. If we hadn't just seen the same deception play out almost exactly the same way again. Back during the reclaiming of Lordaeron, Calia insisted she does not seek to rule. She claims she has no authority and that she is her own soul, asking not to be defined by the Menethil name that represents her brother. However, even then it was hinted that Calia does actually want the throne. She lingers in the throne room, expressing regrets that her family's name has been shamed, mostly because it means the Forsaken don't trust her. Looking back, I realize it's not really that Calia doesn't seek the throne, it's that she knows she can't make a claim for it at this point. But by the time of the reclamation of Gilneas, Calia is giving her word as a Menethil. Once again, we see that the more confident she feels that she will find support, the more likely it is that she will suddenly go from just Calia to Calia Menethil, heir to the throne of Lordaeron. Calia also claims that she doesn't represent the Alliance, and while that may technically be true, she certainly works for their benefit, in a way that also happens to benefit her own position. By helping to re-establish Gilneas, Calia has established an Alliance stronghold right on her doorstep, a stronghold that would, incidentally, much prefer her to be the ruler of Lordaeron than any other Forsaken. But there's more going on here than one woman's ambitions and slightly spineless tendency to pretend she doesn't have them when she thinks it might cause problems. And that is Calia's association with the light. After her death, as Calia's body lay in Netherlight Temple, it was the Naru Sara who told Anduin and Fowl to do something completely unprecedented. Calia would become the first undead to be created by the light. Bring her back as the light and she herself would have her be, Sara had said. He didn't know what the Naru had meant by those words, and he suspected that Fowl didn't either. But somehow, he knew, Calia did. Anduin felt the light come to him, warm and calming. It seeped through his body, soothing his spirit and his tumultuous mind. It was a familiar sensation, yet there was something different. He usually experienced the light's power flowing through him like a river, but now it seemed like a whole ocean was utilizing him as a vessel. Anduin felt a quick flicker of fear. Would he be able to contain and direct something this powerful? Anduin gasped as Calia opened her eyes. They glowed a soft, gentle white, not the eerie yellow hue of a Forsaken's. A smile curved a face that had no flush of life to it. Slowly, her body tilted from horizontal to vertical, and her feet settled onto the stone floor. Calia Menethil was dead, but she lived. She was no mindless undead, but she was not Forsaken either. She had been raised by a human and a Forsaken both, using the power of the light, bathed in the radiance of a Naru. Why did the light create Calia? Because Calia's unique existence is not a coincidence. She's not the first priest to die. Why would she, of all characters, matter to the light so much that it would want to intervene and bring her back? The only thing that really sets Calia apart from any other character is the fact that she is heir to Lordaeron's throne. And why bring her back this way, as a light undead? While canonically in-universe resurrection is rare, Anduin has managed it before. Is it that Calia was simply dead too long to be resurrected properly? Or could the light have a use for an undead heir to Lordaeron that also happens to be pretty strongly bound to the light? Because it's worth noting that if Calia does take the throne of Lordaeron, then the leaders of two of the most traditionally powerful kingdoms in Azeroth will not only be light-aligned, but bound to the light in a way that goes beyond simple priesthood. Turalyon is light-infused. And okay, I have to update here. Turalyon isn't technically on Stormwind's throne anymore. He's handed it over to Gen Greymane while he spends time following around his hot goth wife, playing a valuable role in the war effort against Xal'atath. And I guess he'll be continuing that role in Midnight. But the Arathi Emperor, who we haven't met yet but do already suspect is trouble, is on the throne of what sounds like an incredibly powerful empire. Plus, there's a lot of reason to bring the light into the war against Xal'atath, giving it plenty of excuse to spread its political influence even further. So the point that the light is gathering political power still stands. Calia seems like she may be light-forged as well. Aesthetically, her new form resembles the changes becoming infused with the light made to the light-forged Draenei. At the least, her existence as an undead is entirely based on the light. The light's influence has always been prominent on Azeroth, but now it's gaining real political power. And while this might once have not been cause for concern, there has been some reason to question the light, particularly when it comes to free will getting in the way of its own plans. Back in Legion, the Naru Zera claimed there was a prophecy that Illidan would become infused with the light and use the powers this granted him to help defeat the Burning Legion. When Illidan himself refused the light's blessing, Zera tried to force it on him, binding him in light. Illidan broke free, destroying Zera, and went on to prove the Naru wrong. Becoming infused with the light wasn't necessarily Illidan's destiny after all, and the Legion was defeated regardless. Oh, there's a lot of hints now that Arator is the real child of light and shadow with this destiny. So, let's keep an eye on that. During the Magar Orc recruitment questline, we learned that the Draenei Yrel of Draenor has become a fanatic and now leads an army of light-bound Draenei, Orcs and Ogres who force the light's conversion on all, whether willing or not. It remains an uncomfortable part of the lore. Yrel was a hero during Warlords of Draenor, and this fanatical side seems unlike her. However, it is true that fanatical, even villainous, followers of the light aren't anything new. After all, the Scarlet Crusade, who we've been seeing a lot of lately, are devoted to the light, which still grants them powers quite willingly. In fact, in the Reclamation of Gilneas questline, a Scarlet Crusade Inquisitor transforms into a light elemental in the fight against her. In general, the fact that the Scarlet Crusade started growing significantly again is interesting, as is the rise of the Red Dawn, an organization that hasn't necessarily claimed a great association with the light. They seem more focused on race than religion, but who do show signs of what generally tends to happen when light followers get too zealous. And by all accounts, the Arathi Empire is also very powerful and absolutely devoted to the light, and Farron has outright told us that they will have a problem with those they view as abominations, like the undead. And during the Priory of the Sacred Flame dungeon, the Arathi Prioress Murprey is shown to use the light to create more light-raised undead. They seem more scourge-like than Calia, and the Arathi we help are horrified at the blasphemy, but the light never refuses to be called on in this way. It leaves you wondering what's going on back in the Arathi Empire. Meanwhile, Anduin, who is one of the only people we know to have performed a canonical resurrection and who once helped create a light-infused undead, spent a great deal of time struggling to summon the light, not because he had genuinely sinned in any way, but because he didn't feel worthy. He lacked conviction. The evidence has always been there. The light is not interested in any moral purity. All it wants from its followers is faith. Specifically faith in the light, and it will take that faith by force if it has to. And if the light is comfortable using force to infuse its chosen, then why not to control them as well? Could it be the only reason Yrel is so different to what we remember is because she is now being mind controlled by the light? After all, the Titans used order-infused waters to make the dragons more pliable to their will, and the manifold to force their influence on Azeroth. Why wouldn't the light do something similar? These problems with the light aren't new, but they have taken a bit of a back seat lately, largely due to the threat of Xal'atath and the fact that the light is a very valuable ally in the fight against her. We need the light's help and will probably all die without it. That sort of thing tends to make people look the other way. But threats don't always look like threats on the surface, and the problem with the light has never been that it wants to cause chaos and horror, the way a force like the Void seems to. The problem is the light's lack of respect for freedom of will. And if the light did decide that the only way forward is to activate some sort of chains in Turalyon and Calia and the Arathi Emperor's minds, that would cause them to wage wars similar to the one we saw Yrel lead on Draenor, then what would stop it? For now, Calia is a phenomenal ambassador, accomplishing the sort of things previous leaders couldn't have dreamed of. And while perhaps I'm just being paranoid, I can't help but think of the last time we saw prominent characters in the kingdoms of Stormwind and Lordaeron who seemed uniquely gifted at diplomacy, pleasing almost everyone, and who happened to rise to positions of power surprisingly easily. It was Neltharion and Onyxia. As we look forward to midnight, the most obvious threat is Xal'atath. However, there have also been growing questions about the Titans. Many of us wondered if Azeroth is even inherently a Titan Worldsoul, and revelations during the War Within proved she's not, that the Titans are just trying to claim her. We already know she can be claimed by the Void as well. That's what the old gods were meant to do, and we know even death tried to come for her soul. It seems likely she can be claimed by any cosmological force and is so powerful they all want her. Another thing we learned during the War Within is that Azeroth is covered with shards that radiate light, like Beledar, that have also been confirmed to be calcified chunks of the Worldsoul's essence. We still don't know what that means for Azeroth's Worldsoul, but it seems significant. When we were first told about the Worldsoul saga, Chris Metzen promised that during the Last Titan we would uncover a conspiracy.
And there, at Ulduar, you will bear witness to the return of the Titans to Azeroth. And there, you will uncover a vast conspiracy, one that stretches throughout the history of the world, one that will challenge everything you think you know about the Titans, their intentions, and the true nature of Azeroth itself.
We know that the Titans want our world. We know that the Void wants our world. We know that the Jailer wanted our world. We stopped his puppet's attempts in the Sepulchre of the First One's raid. And more, it's looking like the Light wants our world, and is gaining more influence every day. Midnight begins with a call from the Light. We will be answering that call and joining the Battle of Silvermoon as part of the army of the Light. Is it really that unreasonable to be suspicious of all these light-infused leaders who just happen to be gaining a great deal of political power right in the middle of the war for our world's soul? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it's fine. Even so, I think I am right to warn. Do not trust Calia Menethil, especially if she ever suddenly seems ready to take the throne of Lordaeron for herself after all. But also, let's hope she does. If Blizzard have made a mistake with Calia, it was forgetting the whole Forsaken story is about how you shouldn't judge appearances. While the undead are shunned as rotting monsters, Calia radiates with light and is beautiful and blonde. It was never a good idea to try introduce her as the new Forsaken Queen, as if the Forsaken ever wanted a light lady instead of a dark one. But as a villain that's highlighting the dangerous side of the Light's fanaticism, the abomination that the Light created when it chose to break the rules of life and death, the warning that looks can be deceiving and that beauty is not always truth. She's perfect for that. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share, watch any other videos on my channel, you know, all the good YouTube stuff. You can also join me in thanking my patrons whose name you see in front of you now. As I said, I'm visiting my parents for the next 2 weeks, so there may be a bit of a delay until my next video, but hopefully the time will go by quickly and I will see you again soon.